Good evening and welcome to Estuary News. I'm Hugh Riches. Tonight, an attempted murder in North Lincolnshire, the Turner Prize in the City of Culture, and going totally local across North East Lincolnshire. And later in tonight's programme, I'll be talking to Joanne Hepi about a football challenge up Mount Kilimanjaro. And before that, a celebration of British Food Fortnight with Ronnie Ownsworth. A 16-year-old girl has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. A 61-year-old woman sustained non-life-threatening injuries after being stabbed at Winterton Community Academy just before 9 o'clock this morning. The victim is a welfare officer at the school. She remains in hospital. The public will get to see this year's Turner Prize nominees tomorrow when the exhibitions go on display in the City of Culture. Work by 4 artists is now installed in the Ferrens Art Gallery. Kirsten Simister is the curator of the Ferrens. She says this year's shortlist is less controversial than some.
I think it's fair to say that where some of the previous works in the Turner Prize, like Tracy Emin's Unmade Bed or Martin Creed's Lights Going On and Off, or Huge Bottoms, were shocking and controversial to some extent, but in the way that this work is not, that is true, but it's no less interesting for that. In fact, perhaps it's quite refreshing to have the kind of shock controversy taken out of it so that people can just come with an open mind and make up their own mind about what they think of it.
George Vasey is the co-curator of the 2017 Turner Prize and talks us through some of the nominees.
We have Hervin Anderson, who's a painter. He makes still life, landscape and portraiture. We have Andrea Buchner, who's a printmaker and makes a wide variety of works, including etchings, woodblock prints, sculpture, collaborative projects, whose work deals with ideas around shame and poverty. We're standing in Lubaina Himid's space, and she's a painter, originally studied theatre design, so you can see often works and takes the paintings off the wall and works with tableau. And we're also presenting a commemorative dinner set which looks at the history of slavery. So this ceramic works in this exhibition. And then finally we have Rosalind Nashashibi, who makes paintings and prints, but for Turner Prize she's presenting 2 films, Electrical Gaza and Vivian's Garden, and she makes documentary films that are sometimes scripted and staged, so they kind of call attention to the way in which they're made.
A Hull-born man has been honoured in his home city. Ron Deering was born and educated in the city and went on to become a senior civil servant and chairman of the post office. He died in 2009. He was honoured with a centenary plaque, an initiative which aims to recognise individuals who've made significant achievements for the benefit of the city. A new college has also been named after Deering. The former Secretary of State for Education, Lord Baker, explains how it came about.
Ron Deering and I, 10 years ago, decided we should have new technical schools in our country. We missed out on them. There were 300 in 1945, closed because of snobbery. Everyone with a school on the hill, not the one down with shabby premises down in the town, dirty jobs, greasy rags. And so we decided a model, and it's called the University Technical College model. And it is for students from 14 to 18, and they started at 8:30 or 8:45 in the morning and go until 5:15. It's a working day. And to the students I've met today in this UTC, 14-year-olds, I've told them this is the beginning of your working life.
Ron was my uncle, my dad's brother, and I remember Ron visiting Hull, and he was always so enthusiastic. He was always in a hurry. Ron was a very highly respected, humble man, achieved massive things during his life, and he was extremely passionate about Hull and very, very enthusiastic. He would have been honestly, truthfully, absolutely delighted to be here today. It would mean so much to him to be helping young people in Hull.
East Riding Council is investigating claims of misconduct by its leader. A spokesperson for the council said they are unable to comment further on the claims made against Councillor Stephen Parnaby. A final decision on the issues raised will be decided by the Standards Committee. New research from the Money Advice Service has revealed that more than a fifth of people in Hull are living with debt problems. The North East is one of the two most over-indebted regions in the UK, with 17.7% of people in financial difficulties. Nationally, only 15.9% of the population are struggling to pay bills. A major review of debt advice funding is now underway to help tackle the issue. Having a degree is still a good thing despite a rise in tuition fees and the loss of rarity value. That's the opinion of Lord Norton of Louth, Professor of Government at the University of Hull. Current tuition fees for courses starting this month are up to £9,250 in England, but despite the rise, he argues that degrees are the passport to the future for those embarking on study in the new academic term.
One is for the intrinsic worth of the study itself, what you're learning, so personal development, what you gain from it, which is very particular, and it's still an investment. It's an investment for the future. So your degree isn't an end point. Coming back to something you were talking about earlier, it's the equivalent of a passport. It's your passport to the future, because it's with you always when you want to go on, achieve something, get out there into the wider world. Or to use another concept, it's a springboard to the future, what you do with it. So although more people have got degrees, they're still of value for your future careers.
And you can see that interview in full as part of a new series of Hot Topic, which starts tonight at 8 p.m, 8 o'clock this evening here on Estuary TV. An ambitious plan to replace streetlights across North Lincolnshire has begun today. The £6 million scheme will see over 20,000 lights switched to more efficient LEDs, which use between 50 and 75% less energy than the current lights. It'll save North Lincolnshire Council £500,000 on energy costs. The project is expected to take 3 years to complete. British Food Fortnight is a national celebration of British food and drink. This year is its 15th year. To tell me more, I'm joined now by Ronnie Ownsworth. Ronnie, thank you very much for coming in.
Good evening, Hugh.
Now then, what is British Food Fortnight?
Right, well, British Food Fortnight became about in 2002, and that was following the foot and mouth crisis. And the lady behind the campaign, Alexa Robinson, created British Food Fortnight, and the Duchess of Cornwall is the patron. And the idea is there were a lot of food events going off, but nothing national. So to tie it all in into one specific event, British Food Fortnight was created in 2002.
Now, the first thing British Food Fortnight urges us to do fairly obviously and fairly importantly is buy British.
Yes, that's true, and that's the whole sort of emphasis behind it. But also, it's encouraging people to promote it more. So my role, I am the community volunteer for the East Midlands for Love British Food, is to raise awareness as well as you know, as buying it as well.
Well, let's go through. You've got a wonderful 14-point plan. That
It's a very good website, British Food Fortnight website.
We can all take part in. Well, since you mentioned it, let's get the news of that website out there first.
It's all the W's, lovebritishfood.co.uk.
Okay.
And it's very comprehensive.
One of the recommendations there is just to go onto that website and tell people what they think about British food and say how wonderful. Well, I suppose sometimes it's not wonderful, but on the whole, say how wonderful it is.
It is. I mean, I'm a British farmer's wife, and that's why I got involved with British Food Fortnight and Love British Food. And we do produce the best food in the world. You know, we are heavily regulated, you know, and we do really produce the highest standard in the, you know, European Union.
We can't go through all your 14 points. I like point 6, when next in the pub, team up with a local beer with a local speciality. And that seems like a very important thing to do to me, to look after our breweries, which are burgeoning. They are,
and I mean, there is a growing thing now with artisan beers and craft beers. I mean, CAMRA do events. There's a lot around Lincolnshire that are promoting beers, and it's a perfect opportunity during British Food Fortnight, which incidentally is the 23rd of September to the 8th of October.
Thank you.
to go into the pub and ask if they've got any specialty beers. And if they haven't, you know, perhaps recommend that they get in touch with some of the producers. And, you know, it's easy to find these if you do it on a search engine to find your local craft beers. But if not going to the pub, why not go to a store or to the producer and have a meal at home? So invite friends round and do an evening where you try the craft beers with family and friends.
You also suggest exploring food from different regions of Britain, which is all very admirable, but this particular region, we're very lucky here in Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. You're a Lincolnshire farmer.
Yes.
Well, what is it that we should be celebrating here? It's almost difficult to find something that you shouldn't celebrate.
Well, actually, 2 years ago, I produced a list because I have a real interest in the food of this region, and I did an A to Z list of the Lincolnshire foods, and I tried to work out, could you eat through the alphabet? And in my research, I found things I didn't realise: vinegars, flowers, chine.
What was X?
What was X? Christmas gifts. That's the only way I got round it.
let's have a little look. You've designed a Lincolnshire flag pizza here. What's this in aid of?
Yes.
Just hold that up to that camera over there, I think.
I do try and work with the schools. We have a fantastic lady at the Lincolnshire Showground who is getting involved with the schools. But 3 years ago, I designed a pizza which was in the shape of the Lincolnshire flag. And I mean, you can do this in Yorkshire, because I'm a Yorkshire lass originally, I'm from Wakefield. But basically the food from that county in the shape of that flag. And so I produced...
Very county patriotic, if that's the word.
Yes.
Very quickly, 30 seconds, you've just won an award.
I have, yes. British Food Fortnight and the people behind it have given me a Food Hero Award because of the work I do to promote it. But everybody do get involved. The website at Love British Food, Facebook. There's so much information there. There's too much to tell you tonight.
I think we've got through an awful lot. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming in. You've made me extremely hungry, and not to mention thirsty. Thank you very much. Join me after the break. Dan brings us a roundup of all the latest sporting action, and I'll be talking to Joanne Hepi about football on the heights of Mount Kilimanjaro. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, Dan brings us a roundup of all the latest sporting action, and I'll be talking to Joanne Hepi about a charity mission in Africa. Landlords in parts of Scunthorpe may soon have to apply for a licence. The council's intention is to protect vulnerable tenants from unscrupulous landlords operating in the town. North Lincolnshire Council is targeting all property owners in the Crosby Park and Town wards to sign up to the scheme. The council says it knows which landlords are responsible, but wants to stop a trend from growing. An initiative to encourage people to shop locally has been launched in North East Lincolnshire today. Totally Locally NEL sees 30 small businesses coming together to show local people the benefits of shopping locally. For the next 2 weeks, these businesses will be unveiling the Fiver Fest fortnight, during which businesses will be highlighting services available for £5. Nick Till, owner of Riverhead Coffee in Grimsby, hopes that the movement will allow a strong sense of community to grow in the area.
So Totally Locally is a marketing campaign that's been set up and used by various towns and cities throughout the world. And it's a way to try and boost trade, boost footfall into high streets, trying to get people to think a little bit more about where they spend their money. The basic concept around it is, and we've kind of calculated these figures specifically for North East Lincolnshire, but if every adult in North East Lincolnshire spent just £5 of their weekly shopping budget in a local business, either online or in a local high street retailer or in a food outlet like myself, it would boost the local economy by around £30 million. We've got around about 30 small businesses, retailers, service providers that are offering a really good deal over the next 2 weeks for something that we've called a Fiver Fest. So it's a way to entice people to come in and spend a little bit of money in local businesses, that it doesn't have to be, again, a lot of money, £5, not too much money to spend. There's all sorts of different spin-offs from this initial campaign that can be done. Things like market stalls on the streets, or organising a small market area once a month or something like that to drive more business and more footfall into the area on slower days. I think it's definitely something that, if we're lacking in in high street names on in the town on our high street, then if we get more local independent businesses in, it brings more of a community, and people feel a bit more satisfied about shopping locally, I think.
A team of fundraisers is to attempt the challenge of competing in the highest game of football ever, anywhere, on Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. To tell me more, I'm joined now by Joanne Hepi, one of those taking part in the event. Jo, welcome. Thank you very much for coming in. We better just establish the local connection here. Mount Kilimanjaro seems to be an awfully long way away. What's the connection to Hull, especially?
Stephen, the Steve Prescott Foundation, who we're climbing for, he played rugby league for Hull FC.
And the charity that's set up in his name and for which you're raising funds, what does it hope to achieve?
We hope to achieve the highest altitude game of football, obviously.
What does the charity contribute to?
And then we're hoping to raise funds for the Steve Prescott Foundation, which supports the Christie's Cancer Hospital and the Tri-Assist Benevolent Fund for rugby league players.
And Steve, I'm afraid we've lost since he was playing, obviously.
Yeah, it's been 4 years since Stephen passed away.
And that was cancer itself?
Yeah, he actually was a pioneer for stomach organ transplant donation. He was the first person to ever have the transplant, and unfortunately he died from complications.
Good. Now, you're a Hull woman yourself.
Yes.
And so you're a great and clearly a supporter of Hull football. I'm not going to ask any more details about which teams. It becomes so very controversial so quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro, very high mountain indeed. It's not so much the football as the climb.
It is. It's the altitude that's going to probably affect us most, altitude sickness. Obviously, it's nearly 19,000, which is just over 19,000 feet high. So it's, that's we're really concerned about climbing.
How do you prepare for that?
We've done lots of training. So we've done lots of different climbs and walks. Snowdon, we all did Mount Snowdon together.
Yeah, it's not quite Kilimanjaro though, is it?
No, it's not. And we've also been in some altitude chamber training. I've also got an altitude mask that I wear at home, and when I'm doing my personal training, I wear that as well.
What, so you wander around your house doing the ironing, wearing something that restricts your oxygen intake too?
I do, yes. I also do my workouts at home with it on. And I have been known to walk with it on as well, so I get some funny looks when I'm wearing the mask.
Are you a footballer anyway?
No, I'm not. I follow rugby.
Oh,
not,
rugby, I beg
yeah,
your pardon.
but we are playing football, obviously. So my two sons do play football. So.
And are you a climber?
I wasn't, but I'm feeling like I'm getting there now with all the preparation that we've done.
Tanzania, the Kilimanjaro, a long way away. I mean, it's going to be a massive expedition just to get down there and to organise. Presumably you need 22 people plus a referee. Altitude sickness makes you very aggressive. There will be fighting. So who's been organising this? How have the logistics been working? Ed, one of the trustees from the Steve Prescott Foundation, he's coordinated and organised all of it. Along with Martin Blondell. So they've arranged for us all, there's 45 of us taking part, with 140 Sherpas helping us up as well. So they're locals, the Sherpas?
Yeah.
And there are 45 people coming from all over the world, not just from Hull?
Yes, that's correct. So there's some from New Zealand, Greece, America, flying in from all over to help us with the attempt of the record break.
And you've got some goalposts?
Yes, being donated by Jose Mourinho from Manchester United. So we've got them to carry up with us as well. Jose
Mourinho is the Manchester United manager. I'm hearing from our sportsman Dan is telling me my thank you very much.
Yeah, we've also got an ex-professional referee. He's refereeing the match, which is 90 minutes FIFA rules, which is Mark Halsey.
Okay.
So he's joining us as well on the climb.
If people want to take part, or if people want to take part, they're out of luck, aren't they? Because it's all sorted out now. But if people want to contribute and help to give some money to the charity, what do they do?
They can visit the Just Giving page for Steve Prescott Foundation, which is obviously on the Just Giving website.
And when's it going to be? When's this football match going to occur?
We set off on the 11th of October. We don't actually start climbing until the 13th of October, and it's going to be a 6-day trek up, and then we'll take part in the match, and then it's a two-day trek down.
Well, I can see quite how it's going to take less time to climb down than it is to climb up, but 6 days to trek up the mountain.
6 days.
Well, when you've been practicing on Mount Snowdon, I think there's a little railway that goes up the back of the mountain, isn't there?
And I was tempted to get on that when I was climbing up.
Can you not do that on Mount Kilimanjaro?
No, unfortunately not.
Very poor engineering, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
The Kilimanjaro, easy said, is about 20,000 feet high. Everest is about 30,000 feet high. Somebody, if you get this record, the highest ever football match of the world, somebody's going to want to go and find a higher mountain.
They are. But it's finding one that's like flatter at the top as well, because obviously it's got to be flat enough to mark the pitches out as well.
Right.
So
you can't just sort of convert it to a game of French cricket or something like that.
I don't know.
Just give us those details again if people want to give some money.
So if they can visit the Just Giving page, which is obviously Steve Prescott Just Giving page, or the Steve Prescott Foundation website.
Brilliant. Good luck with that. Have a fantastic game.
Thank you.
Here, talking of sport, here's Dan with all the rest.
We'll start with Rugby League, and 2 Hull FC players have been named in the 2017 Super League Dream Team today. Mahe Fanua has been awarded a place for the 2nd season running, while Albert Kelly has been recognised for the first time, as well as being named as a contender for the Man of Steel award. 6 Castleford Tigers players were given a place. The news comes following the Black and White's 48 points to 16 away win at Cass on Friday night, which confirmed FC's place in the top 4. Jake Connor scored a hat-trick, while Jamie Shaw scored 2 tries in the win. Next up, Hull faced Leeds at Headingley on Friday night for a place in the grand final. Elsewhere, Hull Kingston Rovers lost 46 points to 24 at Warrington Wolves in a game between 2 sides that are already promoted. Their season's now over and preparations for their return to Super League have begun in earnest. Football now, and Hull City almost picked up their first away win since last August at Reading on Saturday. Fraser Campbell gave the Tigers a first-half lead, netting his first goal since his return to the club, but John Daddy Budvarson scored late on to hold City to a point. They're now 17th in the Championship, ahead of a home game with Preston North End tomorrow. Scunthorpe United are up to 5th in League One after beating Portsmouth 2-0 at Glanford Park. Lee Novak and Dwayne Holmes scored the goals in the first half to see the Irons to their 3rd win in the last 5. Former Grimsby Town striker Poreg Amond came back to haunt his former employees as his goal condemned the Mariners to defeat on the road at Newport County. It was a 1-0 defeat for Town in Wales. Meanwhile, North Ferriby United's return to the National League North continues to go from bad to worse. They're still bottom of the pile after losing 4-1 at Stockport County. Darnell Bailey King scored the Villagers' only goal. And that's all for the sport.
That's all for tonight, I'm afraid. If you've a news story for us, we'd be very grateful. Please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages, email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472315553 or write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN345BQ. Until tomorrow, good evening.